Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome. Today I'm talking about a Naruto fanfiction called 6 Years Too Long. Uh, I read it, is it that long? I don't really think it's that long, but that's probably because I binged read. But it's basically Minato coming back from the dead and going through the motions of because he's been gone for 6 years at this point, right? So he's been dead for 6 years, but to him, it felt like this happened hours ago that he died and he was, with his wife and with everyone. So this felt like hours ago to him. So now he just wakes up and he's in the middle of a goddamn forest. So he's like, okay. He immediately first he thinks oh, my son, Naruto. So he immediately thinks him. And he immediately rushes towards the village. So unfortunate that the first thing he finds is, yeah, Naruto, because how could you not? He looks exactly like him. Pretty hard to mistake him for anyone else. So it's very unfortunate that he finds him immediately getting beat up by a a vendor, which is very unfortunate. And so he is of course pissed off. He immediately intervenes. He's like, "What the fuck?" Right? So he's pissed off. And then Kakashi, because he's Naruto's shadow, and this is the closest he could ever get to Naruto, because the whole rule, no one can interact with Naruto. So this is close you can get to him by just being a shadow. So of course Kakashi's there because he's not even believing what he's seeing. He's like, what? He's like, it's you. You're alive, but also, are you really who? You really him? Of course he is. So real nice. And Naruto is not even believing this at first, right? Because he's like, who? Because who is this person, right? No one's ever nice to him. So he's immediately kind of on edge and suspicious at first. But even when he's immediately kind of on edge and suspicious at first, and they do go to Naruto his apartment, right, to see it's garbage and how absolutely horrid it is. And I was horrified that he lived this long. And he doesn't even he sees Kakashi too, and he sees, supposed to say what he's become, but I don't know if that's the right words to put it. But to see over the years what his has become of him, and it's heartbreaking to him because it's oh, Kakashi was also another one, a kid to him, another one of the kids, right? So he saw Kakashi as one of his own. So to see him and Naruto, to be so close yet so far because never interact. Naruto kind of knows of him because he can sense him because Kakashi, allows that to slip by so he can find comfort in his presence. But he's never seen really Kakashi. He just knows oh, that's my shadow. So he knows of him, but has never met him before. But so Kakashi ends up taking him to the apartment where Naruto lives, and Minato ends up explaining it, not in entirety, because I don't think you're supposed to explain that to how old is this, 5? I don't know. You're not supposed to play the kids yet. So he's explaining, it's oh yeah, I was gone for a while. So it's yeah, he's been I'm your dad, and so they hug, and Minato ends up carrying him because he doesn't want to be separated from him. And that's when he gets Kakashi from to get everything that means something to Naruto from this apartment, because he's not staying here, because he did question. He's why wasn't he in the house that him that he and Kushina had built? What is this, right? So he's so much has changed in 6 years, and he's what is this? So he does eventually get because the council is aware of the whole happens. Oh, someone looks like the fourth Hokage, it looks. So of course they're aware of it. So Minato then has to go. So he entrusts Naruto to Kakashi, who has no problem with that. They're going shopping for new clothes. And, Kakashi doesn't really mind it, even though definitely going to put it in his wallet. But he doesn't mind it because after being forced for years just to watch from the shadows and never really get any closer, he can finally, hold him and really buy him whatever he wants. Like, oh yeah, that's great. This is fantastic. He loves this. And meanwhile, Minato's like with the other council. It's like, it's really you. It's like, yep, hello. It's like, because it's jarring to have to get used to it. But they end up setting things up and they end up moving back into the house. And they're kind of setting things up so he can take back over as, Fourth Hokage. But they end up moving into the house that, like, he's supposed to be in, but it wasn't. So, and it's a little, Kakashi's always going to be there. Like, of course they're going to move him in. But Minato does have a bit of a hard, like, he kind of has, like, a bit of a hard time. Because it's like, it's just yesterday. It was, his son was a baby. Like, even though he saw him for, like, 2 seconds, And now he's, like, 5 or 6. And so now it's like, And so there's no use for the baby room where, like, the crib is there. Like, there's no use for that. You gotta clear that out. And, his room, well, he's not gonna really be sharing it. Well, I mean, he'll share it with Naruto because he'll just climb in bed with him. But, like, so it's having to clean things up because everything's dusty and having to clean things up because, well, Naruto's not a baby. He's, like, 6 years old and he's missed 6 years of his life. And now he's like, I don't know, he's like, I have 6 years to make up for it. And because he's been gone for that long. And they also kind of like all, like, it's, because Naruto had kind of already, like, he never said anything, but he had already decided on it. Minato definitely, I mean, like, duh, this is like, his kid's now older, right? So Kakashi was now just, like, all but strong-armed into, like, living with them instead of his tiny apartment. And so I was just like, okay, well, I hope you like, it's like, oh, I hope you like dogs, because obviously his ninkin. And Naruto's just excited. He's like, you have dogs? I love this. So, like, they're no longer Kakashi's ninkin. They're all Naruto's now, right? Especially since, who was again? Pakun. Naruto just, because they all run after him, except Pakun, because he just carries them everywhere. And so he just has, like, so there's no reason for him to run after him. But he does end up taking Pakun with him to school, right? So, and he comes in with, like, new things, like new clothes, like new supplies, everything. Of course, it was bought for him. And this is where Pakun, he's originally sent, obviously, because it's like, make sure, keep an eye on Naruto, make sure everything's kind of, because obviously if he's treated like that, just walking around the village, what's, really going on in the classroom? And nothing bad. I mean, physically, obviously, he's not going to be, like, punched in the face. But, like, he is ignored when he wants to, like, ask a question. So it's not like, and Pakun kind of helps him out when he, like, reads a sentence to him. Like, he's not giving him answers, but he's, like, just reading it to him. And, like, because, like, as the day went on, he could say, he's like, oh, you definitely are, like, dyslexic, because it's like he's struggling to read it, and, like, he mixes some things up, and is why he writes some things he does, and it's like, oh yeah, no, this is why, it takes him time, but he's getting there and he's learning it. Unfortunately, because he's like the last one, but he still wants to really try. But unfortunately, he is accused of cheating. He's like, I'm not cheating, because, like, he immediately assumes it though, because, like, Pakun, is whispering to him. He was really just reading the problem to him. And, like, that's what he was doing. He wasn't, like, giving him answers. But it's immediately assumed, like, oh, he was cheating. It's like, and there was like, I wasn't cheating. And Naruto kind of runs out crying because it was a moment of, like, he genuinely wasn't, like, like, he wasn't cheating. Not that he ever really would, but he wasn't cheating. And he was really trying and was getting it. He's just, like, a bit slower than the others. But, like, whose fault is that? You never bothered to help him. But So he ends up running out and straight to Kashi, right? Because he's there to pick him up. And he's immediately like, oh, what happened? What's going on? He's like immediately defenses her up. Something's gone wrong. Something's alright, right? And so he's like, no, just forget about school. Who needs it anyway? He does. And so they end up going back to Minato, who's all just like at this point. He's like, oh, he should be back from school right now, right? Because, school's out. He's like, he should be back from school right now. So he's just pacing around. It's like, oh my god, this is not. Like, he didn't want to leave Naruto for him to go to school. But he ends up, so he ends up coming back, like, Naruto was crying. And Naruto's, like, at this point, like, a bit embarrassed because he's like, well, he's like, because he thinks he's like, being a bit of a crybaby. Because it's not the worst thing that's ever, like, happened to him, like, compared to, like, everything else that's happened, like, the villagers have done to him and everyone else has said, like, that's not the worst thing that's ever happened. But it was just such a moment where it was, like, he was really trying. And so just kind of for it to amount to nothing, that's kind of, it's kind of heartbreaking. And so Minato is immediately like, because, Pakun doesn't care. He spares no details. He's like, the entire situation, everything from X, Y, and Z has gone up in that classroom. And Minato is like, great, someone's dying today. But Naruto is also kind of surprised at Minato, because at this point, we can see a bit from his point of view how he is like waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? So he doesn't quite believe that this is real. So he's surprised when Minato immediately believes him, like, of course you didn't cheat. You would never cheat, right? Because we see from his point of view, like, how he's very clearly just waiting for it to happen, waiting for it to be like, for him to like be abandoned, basically. He doesn't believe that this is real. He's like, this is like a fever dream to him or something, because of like what everyone has said to him, like, oh, he's like, so he kind of believes it, right? That he is like this demon that doesn't deserve anything. After that, though, they kind of speed run, because they were originally, it was like gonna be a little bit later, but after that, they immediately like, Manal was like, you know what, let's do it tomorrow, announcing that I'm back and ready to take over as Hokage. Like, he doesn't care anymore. He's like, no, I'm ready. I'm gonna use my power. I don't give a shit anymore. And obviously, Manal immediately, because like, he has a job to do, so but like, he notices the changes, none of them great. Mainly like with the Uchiha, right? Because they're like way off in like the distance instead of like, I don't know, in the center, because they're like the police here, and yet why are they just all the way over there? And obviously he's talking with the counselor, like, I think we should bring back the center. And because why are they way in the corner? What is this, right? And it's like, obviously the one to be the most vocal about this, like against this, is Donzo. Why wouldn't he be? Right? He's like, well, there's still some distrust, like, oh, like, because like, what if like they're the one behind the Kyuubi like attack, like, right, the attack that happened. And I don't really shuts that down, because like, I was there, I know, like, I'm not like that memory is still fresh as mine, like it happened yesterday. He's like, yeah, like, it was an Uchiha, but it wasn't necessarily like connected to like anyone in the clan, clearly. So it's like, what are we talking about right now? So plans are immediately made to build their compound to like get it back into the center, because what the fuck. So, and obviously Uchihas couldn't be more happy, right? And they're all getting their stuff packed. They're like, great. Except, which I think this is where Sasuke and Naruto meet, but, well, they have a weird kind of rivalry friendship immediately. But this is where, because the compound gets blown up, who's behind it? Oh my god, it's Danzo, right? But obviously not really much proof, like, like, they know it's him, but they don't have any proof to be like, ta-da, it's you. And so now they're like, this sucks, right? Because they're like because it got blown up. So now they're just like standing looking at it, and like Sasuke and like Naruto are just there in like playing in the mud, like building little sculptures. Naruto is building a sculpture of his, like, in quotations, imaginary friend, Kurama. So by this point, it was an accident when it first happened, where Naruto like fell asleep and he ended up slipping into the little space, which is like the sewer and everything, where he sees Kurama and he's like, "What are you doing here? What the fuck is this?" Right? So, and Naruto has no idea what's going on, right? And I love how his first immediate thing is like, "Oh, what is this? Is this pee? Like you're peeing? Is this?" It's like, we're sitting in your pee. It's like, what? Like, it's so obviously like we're in a sewer. It's water, but okay. And Kurama, like, and that is like a running thing where Kurama has to, like, constantly be like, "It's not pee. What is wrong with you?" And so, and this is where obviously he like immediately like he's still on the same like, I'll kill you, like all that, right? But then I do love this where it shows that Naruto's not even listening, right? Because he's like, Naruto's like, "Oh, you're a dog," and Kuru, like, obviously he's like offended. He's like, "I am the great Kyuubi." He's like, "I am the like a He's like, Naruto's like not listening, so he doesn't hear about the part about the fox. Like he doesn't, or any of that. And the nine tail fox. Like he's not listening. He's zoned out at this point. He doesn't care anymore, right? And he's like, "Uh huh." It's like, it's like, so anyway, it's like, "You're a dog." He's like, "I'm a fox." Right? Because at this point, he's like, "Oh my god, you're stupid." So he's like, "I'm a fox." He's like, "Uh huh," like clearly not believing him, and it's like, he's like, "Yeah, sure." So anyway, you want to hear about what I did today, like my day? And it's like that just continues on, where anytime he's falls asleep, he goes to that little space, right, in their mind, and he's over it. Probably is just like, "Ugh, you're gonna keep coming back." So he just accepts it at this point, right? He's just annoyed more than anything. He's like, "Ew, okay." And so by that point where he's making the little mud statue of him, like the little sculpture, what happened prior was he was like looking. So they were having a talk. I don't even remember what it was now. Oh, they were talking about it getting blown up, Uchiha, like, and he's like, "Good, they deserve it, like whatever, right?" And it's like, "Oh, not if it hurt people." And he's like, so the thing is, Kurama constantly calls him like a rodent, or like you're a weird little like rat, right? So he's like a vermin. He constantly calls Naruto this, and Naruto's like, "What are you projecting?" And then he somehow is like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I didn't notice. I'm a terrible person. You're a rat." "I'm so sorry." It's like, "Oh, you know what? There's nothing to be embarrassed about. You know what? I think rats are cool." And Kurama's just like, "What the fuck? No." So, and so when he's making that little mud statue and like making the little cage he's putting him in, um, you know, Minato is like, he had asked him, he's like, because Naruto was talking about it, he's like, "Oh yeah, it's Kurama." He's like, "I thought he was a dog, but turns out he's a rat and he's just too embarrassed to say anything. But I'm not allowed to speculate about a species anymore, so I just have to call him Kurama now." It's like, what is wrong with you? So, um, but the reason which I did find interesting, I'm like, "Oh, he doesn't recognize it," but it makes sense why Minato doesn't really recognize like the name Kurama, and why he just thinks that like this is just an imaginary friend that like Naruto made up and like gave him like, "Oh, this is like a really like creative name that he gave his imaginary friend," because they've never really like talked to, like they've only ever referred to like the nine tails as like, "Oh, like it's the nine tailed, right? It's dangerous, whatever," right? It's not like they've ever talked to really get to know him. So, or really, I don't think even thought he had thoughts beyond killing everyone. So it's not like they sat down and had a conversation with him, right? And Naruto is like, "You're gonna be my best friend." Like this is like a hostage friendship. So like he's got no choice. He's stuck in him. So I mean, like he's got nowhere to go. But so this is why at this point they just like, he just thinks, and like kind of everyone else too, that because he's kind of open about talking about him, is that not like he's just like an imaginary friend. Um, at the end though, this is where he does think, oh, you definitely need therapy. It's like, because he's like at the end, like he says something like, in the act of catching down, like, why don't we just make up evidence, right? Because he could have killed someone with this. He's just lucky no one's around. Why don't we just make up evidence? Like, even if he, like, what's he gonna do? Say it's wrong? How would he know that? Like, that we made up evidence? He clearly did it. Whatever. And so he's like, but like, he says something along the lines of this, and then, like, he always vaguely reveals something horrifying that to him was like normal. He's like, oh, I had a rabbit once. Yeah, I killed it. It's like, what's wrong with you? It's so, but obviously no one giving foods, like, sure, right? And so he's like, oh, that's really chore. It's like, yeah, of course. It's like, Kurama said I had to grow up really fast, like, And he's like, I asked him too if he was hated by his village. He said yes. Like, you know what? I think that's why, like, we're like the greatest friends. And he's like, I mean, like, he threatens to kill me every once in a while, but like, that's like the first road to recovery, I think, at this point. Like, um, close, but no. And somehow I was like, you know what? That definitely requires some therapy. Yeah. Like, yeah, that's therapy right there. Desperate need of it. Like yesterday. This introduced us to like Ayuma, who is Naruto's therapist. And during that time, because at this point, Naruto, like after having, because they have plenty of conversations between Kurama, and he acts like he doesn't care. But at this point, he's used to it, and he really does come to care for Naruto. But they talk about plenty of things. And at this point, it's like what like the little mind space that they're in, like the sewer and like the water, everything around it is like, because again he's like, oh, it's pee, like it's not pee, this is your mind, this is a reflection of it, this is what you feel and how you think. And like, so he's like, oh, and so this changes Naruto because he's like, he feels bad because, well, Kurama's like stuck in this place and it looks like garbage. It's like, so he feels bad. So going to therapy, he's like, he's very aware even when speaking this. And Ayuma, God, I can't. I'm gonna switch it up every time I say it. It's like he's very like when saying to Minato, like he's very aware of this because he came in. He was like, I know I shouldn't feel this way, but I do, and I want to change that, And he's like, and so they end up drawing a picture, like what he wants his mindscape to kind of look like and what it looks like currently. And so he ends up showing this Minato, who in the beginning didn't think anything of it, and so this makes him feel even worse than he already did because that's something that happened before. But he like this makes him feel even worse because he feels like I missed like the signs, like it was there in front of me, he was telling me, and I just didn't like know it, which is like, you can't really, but like he still blames himself. But what happened before is like, again, where we get from Naruto's point of view is you see moments where he does feel like the shoe is like the other, like, like this is like a delusion, like this isn't real. And it shows because like when he's thinking it over, like he was in his house, he has all these, like surrounded by all these dogs, like his dad's there, and he's like, everything's great now, right? He has a family, something he's always wanted. But he still couldn't help that feeling of like, this isn't real, he's gonna be abandoned, like something isn't right. Which is why he felt bad, like when crying, because again, not the worst of anyone has ever said to him. So that's why he felt like a crybaby, because it's like he felt like if he cried too much, then Minato wouldn't want him, right? But in that moment when he was thinking, when he's surrounded by the dogs and like with Minato and like living in that house, he's thinking back, and we see how he would purposely leave out maybe some clothes or some toys to see what would happen, right? Like to test like them, like to see like if they would take it away. And they wouldn't, obviously. It would always just be like left there, or it would be moved somewhere else, but it would always still be there in the house, like, because it's his, and it wouldn't be taken away. So Naruto isn't like, he can't quite grasp that, right? And so during that conversation, like Minato asked him, it's like, oh, are you okay? Like, are you staring so hard? It's like, I get to live here. Like, I really do get to live here in this house. Minato's confused because he's like, yeah, of course you do. I mean, like, it's your house. Like, where else would you live? And then, like, he's really staring and he's really thinking back. And he's like, oh my God, you really do love me. Like, you really do. And this is, like, heartbreaking to Minato because he's like, he's finally understanding, like, that this entire time Naruto thought, oh my God, he thought I was lying. And he thought none of this was real. And he was just waiting for all of us to leave him. And so he feels terrible as a father because he's like, how did I miss the signs? What what is going on? And I do like how throughout all this is that Minato really does battle with the fact of like, because he knows that he even acknowledges that it's not healthy to really like, you know, hate the village that he's supposed to protect and everything, but at the same time he can't help it, and it makes sense because like you come back after being dead for like 6 years to find your son being abused by like the entirety of the village, and it's like, wow, yeah, like I'd feel a type of way too, and like he acknowledges too that it's not it's not completely their fault because like they were never told who Naruto was. They were never told that like anything basically. Just kind of left in the dark other than like, oh yeah, Naruto's the fox, like, and that's it. And it's just like, go wild with that information, do what you will, like, and it's like that is the worst. Like, nothing was ever made clear to them, and this isn't how like the life he imagined leaving for Naruto. Like, he wanted like Naruto to almost be praised like the hero because that's what he was, even if it was the next container. But it is. So he acknowledges, like that's not very healthy, especially since again Hokage meant to protect. But he can't help but feeling that. But he knows the real people to blame are like definitely the people who know the entirety of the truth, but still did really nothing to help and didn't just like ignored it and didn't really care. Jiraiya does end up coming back because obviously he hears about, you know, Minato coming back and he just has to see for himself, right? And he does get like a brief kind of like, I don't like a little info dump from like the guards. He's like, oh yeah, like isn't it great? Like he's back and he's already like fixing things. Like, oh, the Uchiha clan are like being moved back into center. And to Jiraiya, that's like, even when he's like, what? Like he didn't know they'd been moved to begin with because he truly cut all contact. I didn't really even like know what was going on inside the village, like on inside the village, because he's just like, which added on to the guilt he felt. So he ends up showing up, and like for the first time, this is where he does end up seeing Minato. Same day as when he like nothing changed, right? He looks exactly the same, and this is where he sees Naruto, and they're talking, and then this is where like obviously because Naruto's the first to see him, he's like, "Who's that weird dude staring at us?" And the relationship between Minato and Jiraiya is like tense. Um which makes sense, obviously, because Minato can't help but feel like, because like Jiraiya, it's like, I trusted you, like you were gonna like you're his godfather, like I trusted you to catch him, like to be that safety net for him, and I come back to find him falling. Not only that, he's like thrown into a cavern. Like, what is this, right? And so to see that it's like in him basically being nowhere near, like, he's like, I'm sorry my death basically ruined you. It's like, but like you left Kakashi and Naruto alone. He's like, I should have trusted Naruto Kakashi because he's the only one to even bother to stay around, even though he's a child himself. And it's like, that's really it's really hard to really. So of course he like takes some time. Their relationship does get better over time, but it makes sense that he feels a type of way and really doesn't want to see Jiraiya or really want anything to do with him in that moment. Because it's like, to him, you abandoned him. It's like, I trusted you, my son, and you abandoned him and just left him to the wolves. It's too bad that they end up needing him though, because they have to go to the village, like a different village. Who are they helping? Gaara, because his seal is fucked. So they have to help Gaara, right? Of course, they don't really know what's going. They're just like, they need a seal master, right? And it's like, Jiraiya. He's like, oh yeah, Naruto, like Minato immediately wanted to be like, oh my god, what? We don't have a single master right now, so that sucks. And it's like, oh, it's a good thing Jiraiya's here. It's like, you're right, absolutely fantastic. Like hoping he didn't know the information. So they ended up going, and Naruto ends up going with him. It's like a trip out of the village, and obviously because he's like, I'm not leaving her alone. So like Kakashi ends up going, obviously, duh. And it's because it's like they'd be missing an appointment for Naruto's therapy session. Ayuma ends up going with them because of course. And so during this time too, like because Naruto just explains things, but like it doesn't see anything wrong with them, even though that's not a normal thing. That's not something you should experience as like a 6-year-old. That's no. Like he's explaining like, oh yeah, these bushes, like they're not poisonous, or like these ones are, and they're like, why do you know this? Like, oh, I had to hunt for them scavengers. Like, oh, and he's like describing vaguely like horrible shit, and it's like, okay, and Ayuma's just like writing this down, like, okay, this is interesting, like, and this also kind of like gets on like Kakashi too, because like you're not as emotionally stunted as anyone, like you need therapy too, like. But Kakashi's like so against it. He ends up just like running away. He does not want therapy. It's like Ayuma's like chasing after him. So they end up getting to the village, and after like like having talked with Kurama, God damn it, Kurama, when they're talking, that's when like, oh yeah, I can sense one of my siblings like, oh, do you miss me? It's like, we aren't really like that, and so that's when he's like, well, I'm gonna find like, cause Naruto's like they're like me, so he ends up exploring with Kakashi as he's dragging him towards like where the feeling is. It's Gaara, and he's alone, so it's like, hello. It's like this vaguely murderous person. You can feel it coming off, like, oh, he's gonna kill him. He is undisturbed, though. I will say that he does not care, and even as the sand kind of builds around him, and he's like, come build a fucking sandcastle with me as I explain my life story. And Gaara's like really wary of him, and it's like until like he ends up explaining, which Naruto's like, should have started with that. Where he's like, yeah, in the same way I'm hated by my entire village too. And he's like, oh, okay. It's like, what? Should have started with that, if anything. So he ends up befriending his murderous friend. So everything's great. Everything's fantastic. And Kashi, he's of course watching over them. He's like wary. He's like, oh god, I don't know if I should interfere. They end up having to go back home anyway, though. He's like, I'll see you tomorrow, Gaara. Right? And this is where, because the situation had been explained, that the holder of the one tail is like, very like, he'll definitely kill you. So he's like, so they're looking for them, like the adult they're looking for him, and obviously it takes him directly to Kakashi, Gaara, and Naruto, and they're like, and Kakashi looks up, he's like, what the fuck? So obviously Naruto, he has no problem saying it. He doesn't care. He's like, oh, is that the dude who tried to kill you? It's like, man, no wonder you're so worried. And they're like, Minato, like the others are like, I'm sorry, what now? You know what? And this might explain why he's wary and kind of just kills everyone. What are we doing? What? But they're always looking at him and they're like, well, we can't really, like, because every time he falls asleep, we're just being taken over. So, like, we gotta. But Gaara is immediately like, don't come near me, right? But Naruto's like, no, I'll be there with you every step of the way. It'll be fun. And like, we'll have like a sleepover with it. So they do eventually get it done. And he's like, which is very like, sad that, Gaara say goodbye to his first friend. And I guess technically Naruto looks at this as his first friend too. Sasuke doesn't count considering they have more like a rivalry friendship going on. But they look at each other like, it's like, well, he's like, I'll write to you every day. Like, like I'll write to you. It's like, and it'll be great. Unfortunately, on the way back to their village, this is where they're ambushed and Naruto is taken. And so everyone's freaking the fuck out. They're like, oh my god, what do we do? And this is where Jiraiya reveals, like, no, he had put a toad, like, so, like, they can track him, right? And this is where, we go to Naruto's point of view, and he's like in and out of consciousness at this point, right? So he's like, what the fuck's happening? And this is where Kurama, like, something happens where it ends up exploding. So the seal comes off only a little bit, not completely, but like, it's not completely on either. And then something ends up happening, and Kushina ends up coming back, and it's like, what the fuck? How? What? Naruto's still knocked out at this point too, but he's like deep asleep. Because Kurama wanted to protect him. But Kushina comes out because it turned out she had accidentally sealed herself into that, like, while making it to seal it, she accidentally sealed herself away in it too. So it's like, okay, what? So she has no idea what's going on, but she does know that's her son, and she has no idea who the fuck these weird people are, except Danzo. Except she doesn't really know she can't remember his name. So she's like, isn't that like Lonzo or something? What is the creepy weird fuck? Okay, so she's just like, I'm just gonna beat you all up. I don't care. And so when the others do finally track him down, like they get there, like fire, and they're like, what the fuck is happening? And so they're like, oh, Kushina, what? Okay, Minato's happy, but also their child is unconscious, deeply so. So they're like, oh, this isn't, on one hand, great. On the other, so they get back to the hospital. They're like, and Naruto's like in like a coma, right? He's not waking up. He's out of it, right? Physically, like everything's kind of like okay with him, but like it's like they can't reach him subconsciously, and it's because he's in there with Kurama, and Kurama's like curled around him and protecting him. And so that's where they go to Ayuma, because Yamanaka, right? So they go to Ayuma, and they're like, can you go into his mind? And that's when they're like, but obviously they're kind of worried because, like, what if the Nine Tails, like, because they only refer to it as the Nine Tails, but they're like, what if the Nine Tails, like, because the seal clearly is like, it's literally, clearly looks like it's still on there, but it's like, you're probably gonna see it. So he's like, all right, I'll go in there, but first time something being wrong, I'm getting the hell out. But he ends up going in there, and he's like, yep, exactly how he describes, like the sewer, but a couple flowers popped up here and there, progress. And that's when he finds the Nine Tails and also Naruto there. So he's like, uh-oh. He's like, oh, it's you. And it's like, you're an idiot. It's like, but he ends up handing Naruto back to him, threatening him, of course, like, I'll kill you if you ever let this happen again. It's like, oh, okay. So there's the threat. So he ends up going back, and he's like, okay, thank God. And so he looks traumatized, even though Naruto's back. And so they're all like happy, but Ayuma looks traumatized. And Naruto kind of gives him this look of like silently kind of pleading with him, like, don't say anything. Don't. But it doesn't work. Ayuma ends up explaining, like, oh, there was an idea. He's awake. He's completely fine. And, like, he had Naruto. It's like, oh. So, like, that's Kurama. Like, that's his imaginary friend. That's why they put it together. And so Minato was immediately thinking, oh, no. They're like, he's immediately like, oh, he feels like he failed as a parent again. Because he's like, there's no way Kurama, like, like, because Naruto explained to him, like, how much he loved his imaginary friend, how much he cared for him, and how much, they even talked things about love and how everything, like, they talked about a lot of things, right? They shared their days together. And so Minato's immediately thinking, he was faking it. He was faking it, tricking Naruto. But he looks to Naruto, everyone does, and, he almost looks kind of guilty and, like, put out. And he's like, man, why'd you say anything? It's like, what? It's like, yeah, he knew the entire time. Because it turns out at some point, yeah, he figured out Kurama was, like, the Nine-Tailed, like, a long time ago. And Kurama and, like, everyone else, so while everyone else thought he was an imaginary friend, and Kurama was, like, under the impression that Naruto was, like, dumb and just thought he was, like, a rat and didn't understand it. But, like, he grew to understand, like, because he grew to care for Naruto. So he began to get nervous of the day when he would eventually kind of realize that he is a Kyuubi and then would shun him. And he never wanted it to happen, so he just never corrected him. So, but Naruto, at some point, knew, right? He found out and he just didn't really care anymore. But he looks put out and he's like, and he looks terrified of them. And this is like kind of what shakes Minato, because he's like, he's looking at them like he would kind of like the rest of the villagers. And this is where he's like, okay, then you take a step back. I'm scaring my son, right? Because he's looking at them like they're the threat. Because obviously Kurama has like been with them, and Kushina can kind of, on some level, kind of like, because she was the holder before him, but she's never talked to him before. She's never talked to the Kyuubi, other than hearing threats, but never really had like a conversation with him. So they decide to venture into his mind. Kushina, Minato, and Ayuma, right? Decide to venture into his mind briefly. And this is where they meet him. And this is where, Naruto hugs him and he's like, oh, it's great to, be awake and see you. But this is where, this is also where Ayuma immediately enters in like therapy mode. He's like, he's more mine than he is yours, which is like not untrue. Because I mean, like, how long ago did you get back? You literally got back 2 seconds ago, Kushina, and then you've been back for like maybe like a year or something. Okay, he's smart. He's been with him from the beginning. Let's not even. So, but Ayuma immediately enters therapy mode. He's like, so do you mean like like you really see him as like your child? And he's like, all right, you're annoying me. I'm gonna eat you. It's like, shut up. It's like, so Naruto is like allowed to keep seeing Kuruma, and so like, he ends up being like real happy about that. Which unfortunately does nothing to stop him being kidnapped a second time. The second time, though, they didn't really mean to kidnap him. They legit were just trying to kidnap Sasuke, but they end up kidnapping Naruto and Shikamaru, which doesn't like. So they end up kidnapping both of them, which doesn't help because they were already on high alert with the first time of the first kidnapping, and it also really didn't help considering just like hours before he was explaining to Shikamaru like in school because Kakashi was there just like in the ceiling, and like he got clearly worried. He's explaining, oh yeah, I've been kidnapped dozens of times. It's like, he's like, why would I make up being kidnapped? Everyone literally thought he was making up being kidnapped like all those other times, but it's like, no, he really was. He just got away those times. And they're like, oh my god. She's like, oh my god, what the fuck? And so now this is adding to it. They were already protective because like they were already like, he's been kidnapped, like, and now it's like worse. So they escape, or at least they thought they did. Turned out they're in like a Gengetsu. So no, they didn't really escape. And Kurama's like, let me take over for a bit. And this is where Shikamaru was like looking at him because it's like, talking to yourself. And then he's like, you're not talking to yourself, are you? And so it's like, oh, what? No, and Naruto's like, why would I talk to myself? And then he's like, no, wait, no, I'm talking to myself. Anyway, so he's like, oh, god damn it, you're not talking to yourself. Right. So he's like, now it kind of becomes aware of like, oh, you're talking to, okay, sure. As long as you're just trying to kill us. I don't really care. And so afterwards, he's then like looking, they get out eventually and they make a break for it, right? And this is where they run into like the Ninken, right? And they run into others and they signal they found them. So they're like, oh, this is great, finally, right? And they were already overprotected before. And now they're like, he plans with Shikamaru. After all that, like they do try and like, okay, who was the one? Because clearly, like, who was the one who kidnapped you in the first place? But like none of the people, like they show them, are the ones who did it, because they're like, they explained to him like the person who did it, like he looks like half his face was like crushed under something really heavy. See, and so they're like, it's none of these people, right? He wore a mask, but it is also like half his shit looked crushed, and so I think start to settle down afterwards, and this is where like, because they're all really overprotective, Kakashi's over there, like someone is bad, like someone's always kind of watching over them, right, at this point. And this is where they're like, you want to make pictures so they can, you want to draw pictures for them so they can maybe like ease up on the guards, because like, this is wild and stupid, which they're aware of, and they're like, pictures. So they're just happy to get them. And it's not until they're going through like memories, like Kushina and like Minato are showing them like, oh yeah, picture of like all these like, oh, their old team, like with Kakashi on it and like Rin, and they're like, this is where Shikamaru and Naruto look at each other like, and Naruto kind of hesitates bringing it up because, like, how you gonna bring up, like, I think the dead one, like, was the one who did it. Shikamaru doesn't care. He immediately brings up, like, that's the dude who did it. It was him. And, Minato's immediately like, what are you talking about? Like, he would die. Like, he was crushed. But, remembering, obviously, they did say half his body looked crushed. And they're like, oh, no. This is bad. Minato, like, immediately, he feels sick. He's like, oh, fuck. One of my, like, he's immediately like, oh, no, right? But that's where, like, mystery kind of leaves off. At least for now, right? Well, other than, like, it ends with Naruto immediately, like, because now this is, like, he's a bit older, and he immediately takes off the seal, right? Because they are ready, like, they're ready for this. They take off the seal, and everyone feels it. So sirens are going off. So now we're, like, with Minato in, like, the, like, in a meeting, and he's like, he's not even paying attention. He's just like, ugh, I want to go home. I want to spend time with Naruto. It's like, and then bring it back. It's like, we felt it. Like, everyone felt it. Like, the Kyuubi was, like, released. And he's like, no, I don't think so. I think, there'd be, like, a lot of fire, destruction. I think we're all fine. Like, no one damn well, like, yes. They went to check on Naruto as soon as it happened. They're like, are you okay? Because they agreed to, like, take it off, but, like, not right now. But, so he's, like, trying to gaslight them. He's like, no, I don't think so. Because, like, they want to review it later. But, so now they gotta, convince him how he's not, like, a threat or, like, a danger to anyone. And that's where, it leaves off. At least book 1. Because there is a book 2. But that's where book 1 leaves off, at least. Anyway, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, bye!